motion of this route is, this house believes that African nations should ban the sale of whitening skin and all similar products. Acting as the opening government is BY1 with Ms. Revitila as the Prime Minister. With Ms. Jenny Anggara as the Prime Minister and Mr. Revitila as the Deputy Prime Minister. Acting as the opening opposition is M2U01397 with Ms. Villa Lavenia as the leader of opposition and Ms. Astrinda Lasastri as the deputy leader of opposition. Acting as the coalition government is M2U01397 with Ms. Krishna Fadila and as the member of government and Mr. Ilham Mulyana as the government whip. And last but not least, acting as the closing opposition is UMI 3 with Mr. Haris Hamzah as the member of opposition and Mr. Rio Laksamana as the opposition whip. Our adjudicator is Ms. Ratna Vitasari from GTF as the chair adjudicator. Before we start the debate, let me read you the following notes from this session. During the debate, it is mandatory to remain silent.
You guys have known the rules? Okay, proceed to the
Now, to open the debate, I'd like to call even the Prime Minister to Ms. Jenny Anggara, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, beauty standard or stereotype that is happened in the world society nowadays is spread all over the world through the mass media. The standard that happened in the world society today is that, for example, if we will acknowledge beautiful, if we, for example, have white skin, have beautiful hair, and your tongue, your skin, and so on and so forth. But for some race, it's okay because they already left with that ideal condition. But for other race, it's going to be a hard trick to make that ideal condition realize for them. Here, this motion, we as the government has three justification points. First is why should African nation that bans the sale of whitening skin. The second is why should ban it, and then the third one is why not whitening skin and other similar products. Before that, let me give some overview towards this motion. As I said before, that acknowledgement is there if you fulfill the standard that is created by the society. The problem is that for some people who try to fulfill that standard, there's some effort by them, but unfortunately some of them get obsessed by the standard, and they're no longer logical in fulfilling in doing some treatment. For example, in African nation, which is most of the society is black, and overlap whitening skin, it will endanger them, but just because they want to acknowledge, so they don't care about the person anymore. And then because of the depression, that irrational reason, that irrational treatment that they do, we as the government propose this motion in order to achieve our goal, that is to minimize the bad effect of using whitening skin and all similar products, which is with an irrational reason. What we mean by that effect here is that the physical effect and moreover the psychological effect. And moreover, the status quo right now is that whitening still is still allowed there, still allowed to be standard. And as I said before, the use of that is overlapping. And moreover, the use of whitening skin itself is very clash with the feminism idea, which is it put by using the whitening skin, it put women as subject as object of a certain stereotype, of certain standard. And go to our justification for oil. First, why Africanation? The first why Africanation and why should government doing this motion? The first, because government is the one who has power, and moreover, it's the right of African people. Government is the one who has power, and this is the only way, or the exclusive way to minimize the bad effect of using the whitening skin. And why should we ban? Because why should that whitening skin? Because it will change the whitening skin will just the body of the user, and moreover it will have an effect in physical and moreover psychological. And as the Prime Minister, I will give the argument in the idea of the water, and here is my argument. Everyone can choose where they want to be born, in what condition he or she wants to be born, what color skin he wants, what type of hair, and so on and so forth. So, by creating the standard of beauty, or fulfilling the standard of beauty that is only based on certain race or certain condition is unfair, because every race or every people have their own uniqueness, even in the same race. One person or another race have distinctive characteristics, and we believe that that condition, that best condition is enough to acknowledge that you're beautiful and you're good without any necessity to repair it. So using whitening skin is because it is ideal. Moreover, it's a kind of invalid standard that is created by the society, because for some people, as I said before, for some people they just specify this ideal condition. They don't have to make effort to realize that standard. But for some people, for example, African people, which is this black skin, they have to effortfully do something to realize the condition. And based on this condition, we as the government beg to propose this motion.
The Prime Minister spent 2 minutes and
when with the paranoia of the government too, that all of the people, that the beauty stereotype itself has spreading worldwide, and all of the, the black people are actually want to pursue fulfilling the beautiful thing with being white skin, ladies and gentlemen. But we see on how that the government never ever characterized on how African nations itself are the first place, ladies and gentlemen. On how an African nation itself is so many third world countries that exist in the African nations itself. And on the status quo in society there itself, ladies and gentlemen, on how there are still very lack of welfare and so on and so forth. On how that these kinds of whitening scheme is also might be hard for them to purchase actually at the African countries itself, ladies and gentlemen. Several rebuttal goes to the government too. On the first, on the acknowledgement problem that they said that actually many people are actually want to be acknowledged by or they might be do such kinds of obsessing things actually to be want to be acknowledged as the beautiful people with being white skin, ladies and gentlemen. But we think that actually they are too overgeneralized these kinds of things, ladies and gentlemen. Even if there is a problem in the society that I'm a brown skin or I'm a black skin and I want to have a white skin itself, it of course exists, but it is not in a majority way, ladies and gentlemen. So we think that actually the afraidness of this overlapping use of this whitening skin in African nation itself is already failed in the first place, ladies and gentlemen. And they said that actually on the second point, they actually think that it is backlashing with the idea of the feminism, ladies and gentlemen. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the idea of the feminism itself is that all of the women in the world is actually deserve to fulfill in their own happiness, or deserve to do whatever they want, ladies and gentlemen. That's actually the essence of the feminism on how that women itself is deserve to pursue their happiness, right? So we think that actually their idea itself is backlashing at the first place, ladies and gentlemen. And they think that actually it's they never ever characterize on how the African itself will use these kinds of whitening skin for them in itself, ladies and gentlemen. So we think that actually their paranoia itself is already massive at the first place, and we think that is not the condition that happens in the African nations country right now, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's start to the idea of the beauty itself, ladies and gentlemen. We think that the idea of the beauty itself is already subjective, right? And we think that we would like to have our goal is on how we would like to let the idea of the beauty itself is defined as in their own way, in a subjective way, ladies and gentlemen. And our stand in here is clear that we would like to stick on the status quo right now, that the people in every world can purchase these kinds of whitening skin and all similar products, ladies and gentlemen. I have 2 points of justification on how, first justification on how the idea of beauty itself is subjective, and the second is that the right of the people to actually choose of the body of itself, ladies and gentlemen. On the first point on how the idea of the beauty itself is subjective, ladies and gentlemen. But we see that actually the idea of beauty itself in every nation or even every individual people is different, is subjective. You cannot even define that these kinds of beauty, this kind of standard of beauty is the most absolute way, ladies and gentlemen. We know that actually for some people in let's say in Indonesia itself say that white is good, ladies and gentlemen. But we can also say that people in India say that beauty is fat is good also, ladies and gentlemen. So we think that actually the right of every people to define what beauty itself is should be much more apprehended in the first place. We know that actually the African nations is many third world countries that actually exist in the African nations itself, on how they still bounded to the traditional things. Their standard of beauty itself is also subjective. It's also bounded with the traditionality itself, ladies and gentlemen. We believe that in these kinds of things they have a certain subjectivity that also need to be upheld, right? So we think that actually their awareness that they would like to change their genes into white skin itself is already too far at the first place, ladies and gentlemen, on how they are still being at the box of the traditionality that's still being perceived by these African nations itself, ladies and gentlemen. Second justification point on the right of the people to actually choose the body autonomous rights itself, ladies and gentlemen. if you say that it is for black people or for this African nation itself, well, we see that actually, black skin or even brown skin is everywhere around the world, not only in African nations. So we're questioning why this is only, only legitimate for these African nations itself, ladies and gentlemen.
Because somehow basically this kind of body elements can be limited by these African nations because somehow it creates desirable impact into the African union's interest upon the racial inferiority.
We think that actually this kind of thing could not be interfered at the first place by the government itself, ladies and gentlemen. Because like I said before, when people having this kind of body autonomous right itself, it means that government even if we believe that actually indeed government has certain stuff, social contract with the society itself. But we think this kind of right could not be interfered at the first place by the government itself, because we think that actually this is the right of the people to actually choose. Moreover, ladies and gentlemen, if the government ban this kind of white skin product, it will strengthening this idea of the stereotype that the beauty itself is white, ladies and gentlemen. Because we think that by banning them, it means that the government already having such kinds of afraidness or so on and so forth, ladies and gentlemen. They do not believe in society, that their society can be mature enough to actually absorbing the idea of the beauty itself, ladies and gentlemen. And we think that actually the idea of the beauty itself is subjective at the first place, ladies and gentlemen. Thus we do not want this government itself to actually to be afraid or by banning this kind of product, ladies and gentlemen. We think banning this kind of product will also affecting people's right to actually choose, to actually pursuing their happiness, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said before, whether or not you want to be beautiful and how to find your beauty itself, it is up to you, ladies and gentlemen. Even if in this African nation itself. So we get to oppose at the first place. Thank you.
The leader of opposition spent 7 minutes and 10 seconds. Now, I invite the Deputy Prime Minister to Mr. Jenny Anggara, please.
The Deputy Prime Minister has several arguments here. One is about the preserving the uniqueness of the race, and one is about the whiteness, one is about the effectivity of this motion if it is perfect. For that, I'm going to give some rebuttals for the leader of this. So to say that the problem here is that not all people are obsessed or want to pursue their happiness by making their skin become white. Because we see that even if you're not in the Africa, and see in Indonesia, we are born with brown skin. We want the white skin, right? What happened in Africa is that they have darker skins with compared to Indonesia, and they sometimes they also they feel inferior of that stereotype that black people is, for example, stupid or so forth. And that causes the black people, African people wants to change their skin to be white, and they still want to be acknowledged as the people that is not black. For example, the idea of feminism. They say that feminism is in the idea of feminism that women deserve to fulfill their happiness. But here I say that it can be a kind of happiness, but it's not long-lasting happiness. Why? Because there is, the effect of the white skin itself is already maximum. And we know that in Africa itself, there's, the geographical or the weather itself is not supported for white skin actually, because they need, the vaccine to protect themselves from the sun, for example. So we believe that this idea is from the beginning. Now going to the idea that they say that the idea of beauty is very subjective, as the goal is to let beauty to be successful. We believe that they will not be effective to let beauty become subjective if they still let the white skin produce ourselves in the African nation. Why? Because beauty, nowadays there's already the style of beauty in the world that people, for example, like by there is, for example, the beauty pageant show or so on and so forth that they have the standard of beauty. For example, like white skin and long hair and straight hair and so on and so forth. But when you have the whitening skin still cell, then people will use it and they will change their especially for African people, they will change their skin and they become like white and so on and so forth. And because they follow the subjectivity that is brought by the people who standardize the beauty itself, and we believe that it's not right. We believe that when they want to make it subjective for our people, they should not like the weapon is still to be so like, but they should let people be what they are. And the second of all is about the body autonomous fact, but it will be countered by from my argument. Now goes to my argument. First of all is that I believe that every race is unique. We believe that the uniqueness of every race is not need to be preserved by the nation. Why? Because it is a kind of heritage for that nation to show their identity, by skin, for example, or by shape of face, for example, or by hair, for example, and the appearance of the body itself show the identity of the nation itself. And we believe that identity is important at the very beginning because they define who you are. So when you are black, for example, then people will be easy to judge you, for example, like you are African and so on. And here the evidence that if you are African and you have a direct skin and you change your skin become white, then people will not so easy to determine whether you are American, you are African, or you are another way. Then by banning this weathering product is the exclusive way to preserve their own culture, to preserve their African culture itself, and African people itself, and second of all, the idea of rights. We believe that they believe that individual rights or value autonomous rights cannot be interfered by government, but we believe that government has also rights to to protect their society, and government has to apply the paternalistic law because the individual rights actually can be limited by the government itself because there is already like social contract for the government that the society gives the help for the government to rule them, and that's why government can interfere their rights if moreover if their rights is no longer relevant or no longer rationalized, because the use of the weapon skin itself will harm their body and will harm the race of the African people itself. So that's why we believe that government need to stop the selling of the weapon skin itself. And third of all, we believe that it is the effective way to reach our goal, that is to minimize the bad effect of the weapon skin itself, because African government will close the access of the weaponing product itself and such kind of product from the selling in the African, and people will no longer use that, or if people use that, or people sell such kind of the weaponing itself, government will give the punishment that it is a way to protect the society from the effect of the weaponing skin itself. And we believe that the banning is the only way to reach the goal that is first of all to preserve the race itself, and second of all is to protect the society from the from the bad effect of the weaponing skin. So that's why we back to.
Prime Minister spent 6 minutes and 46 seconds. Now I invite the leader of opposition to Ms. Astrida Nilasasri
whitening product itself, or within the factory of the whitening product itself. That's the first rebuttal. The second layer of rebuttal are how they forget about this government already have a branch to actually have selection to all of the product that wants to be spread to the society itself. So we believe that if there is any bad impact toward this product, the products are limited or already have supervision from the government itself. So we believe that the dangers that they put on the first problem on how this is more dangerous than physical or psychological, it was not really that severe, ladies and gentlemen. No. Now go to the second rebuttal, which is they believe that the governments can interfere this kind of right because they believe that this is irrational considerations from all the people, ladies and gentlemen. But now let's see, like we already told you, that the private right cannot be, the private right is a certain part of private. It's the only part that cannot be interfered by the government. Yes, there is a social contract, but the government only can interfere a right which is have a contact with the massive person, and it's not be considered as a public right, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the second layer is about the irrational itself, ladies and gentlemen. We don't believe that their considerations is irrational because we believe that there is so much understanding and information that they get before they use this whitening skin, ladies and gentlemen. Now, go to the third rebuttal, which is we believe that this is because they believe that this is, let me finish first, because they believe that this is the way of to perceive the culture itself, ladies and gentlemen. But we do not see on that, ladies and gentlemen. We believe that the culture, yes, we believe that culture is an identity that is to yourself, ladies and gentlemen, but we do not believe that culture is a certain way on you to have a physically identity itself, ladies and gentlemen. We believe that culture is something that you believe is something that you really need to, is something that you do and from these people or from this certain part of the mind, ladies and gentlemen. So we believe that this culture, we do not have any relation for this notion. Yes.
We think somehow by blaming this product or this society, it will create a it will not create a direct paradigm changes of our society on how basically the standard of beauty.
But we believe that standard of beauty is a subject. You cannot generalize the standard of beauty like that. It is never we believe that standard of beauty is subjective, like I told you. It's about how people see who they are. It is never people who see who they are. It's like this is the point in my rebuttal, which is we believe that people see who they are. It's not just merely you born with that. It's not people see who they are. You also consider as you develop yourself. If you want to be like what, ladies and gentlemen, like who you are, ladies and gentlemen, you can born with this certain characteristic of skin, ladies and gentlemen. For example, dark skin or etc. But if you want to be developed with your light skin and so or white skin and so on, that's actually define who you are, ladies and gentlemen, because that is also consideration from you yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Now go to my case, which is I want to tell you about how this is also considered as a private right, and the second is about the society characteristics, ladies and gentlemen. Now go to my first argument, which is we believe that this is private right. Private right is the way that you define yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Even though you are totally have straight hair, etc., it's based on your own decisions, ladies and gentlemen. The way you comfort yourself, the way you actually believe who you are, ladies and gentlemen. And it will also develop, ladies and gentlemen. Why it will also develop? Because there are so many understanding information and so many developing information that you will get, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want to develop with your dark skins, then also okay, ladies and gentlemen, because background also influence information that happen in this long is also influence. So let them be, ladies and gentlemen, let them be who they are, ladies and gentlemen, let them be who they are. It's not just being stuck on their dark skin, ladies and gentlemen. We believe on the point. Also, it's actually to comfort themselves, to introduce them to society, ladies and gentlemen. So go to the second argument, which is we believe the society characteristics, ladies and gentlemen. Society characteristics means that when you want to go to the society, you want to be such kind of acknowledgement to happen, and then ladies and gentlemen, you want to be accepted in society, ladies and gentlemen, because you want to socialize with them, ladies and gentlemen. And these African nations have a more socialized behavior in their daily life, ladies and gentlemen. So we believe that this private right of law that let them be itself be accepted from the society, ladies and gentlemen, because this is very important to the left. This is very important to the left, ladies and gentlemen. And those kind of rights, we believe that those kind of rights cannot be limited from the government, because we believe the African nations not we have not doesn't have any democratic system. So the limitations should be accessed, the borders should be accessed between the government and the society itself, ladies and gentlemen. And we also believe the separation of the private right and the public right itself, ladies and gentlemen. How the government only can limit you on your private public right, because this is how you connect each other, and there are some classes that will happen, ladies and gentlemen. So the idea on how the private right and public autonomy is well, that it's kind of right that cannot be limited. Well, we believe that this can be disrupted by the government itself, ladies and gentlemen. And the second layer on how this private right is believed, this private right is also kind of how they develop the way you develop yourself, which is kind of information understanding, the way you comfort yourself, is actually considered as the way you want to be such kind of statement that, hey, this is who I am, because this is what I want to be, because this is the information, because this is the way I comfort, this is the way understanding that I want to be, ladies and gentlemen. That's why that's one is the aspect of the society. So we believe on that. We beg you to understand.
The leader of religions spent 7 minutes and 31 seconds. To continue the debate, I summon the member of the government, Ms. Krishna Panda.
Yeah.
It is totally nonsense where you want to get social acceptance and you claim that you are being yourself, but you are following the standards of beauty of other people, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to get this kind of social acceptance, you need to be the way you are, ladies and gentlemen. But when you are using this kind of the whitening product in here, it means that you are not being yourself because you are trying to follow certain standard of beauty of other people. So, ladies and gentlemen, you see that social acceptance only can be achieved when no matter what is actually your race, but this is actually related upon your behavior and also your capability itself, ladies and gentlemen. Now, several battle goes to the relative side of the house. First thing first, I believe that the idea that beauty is not always subjective, ladies and gentlemen. How some part of the country India say that white is good, and other country India say black is good itself, ladies and gentlemen. But rather than come up with a proposal, is that they believe that on how actually by using this kind of the whitening product, it can make people are having the beauty in their still subjective itself. We say that by using the whitening itself, the concept of the beauty in here will be objective, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Because this kind of the thing will create this kind of the standard, how you are classified as the people who are beauty this kind of the racial gap itself, you actually need to step forward to actually introducing that this is actually the uniqueness that you have, and also this is actually not something bad legislation. So that's why, and also why the government here has the authority to limit the personal right of people itself. We say that the government India can limit the personal right if there is no harm. The first is individual harm, and the second is community harm itself. And the harm that will come up is that the inferiority of the body towards the user itself. How they will feel also inferior because they are black people, just they need to change to be white itself. It also harm the community. How when you are trying to change your identity and also race itself, it means that your race in here is not better than the other itself. We do not want this kind of the gap still exists in the status quo itself. We actually want to introduce that being beauty in here is subjective. You can being beauty when you are black or when you are fat, ladies and gentlemen. And the second idea, we should ban whitening, this kind of the whitening skin product itself, because we see that there is also the support that coming from the advertisement itself, how this is actually sporadically spread to the society that will lead into consumerism itself. This is actually a high demand of the society to use this kind of the thing. So that's why we actually as the government here should still ban this kind of the thing. And the third of all, we believe that it can redefine the concept of beauty itself. When we ban this kind of the whitening skin, it means we can introduce people, make people realize they're also proud to be themselves, ladies and gentlemen, that you are also beautiful, even though this kind of the African people in here is black, is fat, or even has a curly hair itself, ladies and gentlemen. This is actually a better because people can be proud of themselves in the way they are. So that's why we still
The member of government spent 7 minutes and 29 seconds. Now, I summon the member of the opposition, Mr. Aris Hamzah, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, before I demonstrate my argument, let me give some rebuttals of the opposition teams. The opposition team have already demonstrated about the white skins and then how about the white skin itself. And then the government only say about the psychology and then physics itself, and then they don't mention about what is the effect of the physics itself, and then what is the effect of the psychology itself. That is missing of the explanation of government itself, ladies and gentlemen. So in this case, let me identify what is motion is going on. African nations should be banned the sale of the whitening and then all of similar product. If you talk about the African nations, you should make the human right itself. Everyone is perceived everything they can feel their life, ladies and gentlemen. If you talk about the sale it means the economic perspective, ladies and gentlemen, you should include it. And then whitening content, you should include that. Most of the people have demonstrated their argument about the whitening skins. And then they don't mention about what is the context about the whitening skins itself. If the context is whitening itself is a bookworm and then it is harmful for our skin, ladies and gentlemen. It's not, ladies and gentlemen. So that is most of the people right now do not understand regarding what is component of whitening skin itself, ladies and gentlemen. In African nations, so many natural resources, ladies and gentlemen, natural resources, and then most of the human resources can take the natural resources, and then advantages for the whitening skins is like that, ladies and gentlemen. And then such as bangkok, such as Timon itself, ladies and gentlemen. In the African nation, do you know why the point of the African nation, ladies and gentlemen? Most of the African nations in here is a black, white, ladies and gentlemen. Why you forbid African nations to feel about the white skin, ladies and gentlemen? This is if you think there are so many legislations in this case, ladies and gentlemen, no, not legislation in here. This is a human right for the people in Africa not perceive the white skin itself, ladies and gentlemen. And then if you validate these cases, ladies and gentlemen, not only human rights the context of the whitening itself is like before and people itself they can save their whitening schemes, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why the government scheme notice why the government thinks should already demonstrate is the harmfuls of this case because what they know about the components of the whitening schemes itself notice. And then, you know, ladies and gentlemen, nature's resources of the Africa itself. There are so many, ladies and gentlemen. If you worry about it, you don't. It means you don't understand about the natures of resources of that. And then how the human resources elaborate their natures and then become a good advantage for white skin itself, ladies and gentlemen. From the economic perspective, in this case, economics involved in the case because what we talk about the sale, we talk about the sales. But again, we talk about the sales. We talk regarding the sales. Sales is widely include the income in cases in income in this perspective. If you balance this economic perspective, it means you can benefit the increase of economics of the nation itself, ladies and gentlemen. Now next, have you ever listened about regarding one product can increase the economic perspective in this country, ladies and gentlemen? So that's why you ban this whitening schemes, and then if the whitening schemes can give a good impact for our nation, ladies and gentlemen, it means directly you should decrease the economic perspective in here, ladies and gentlemen. For example, next. For example, in here, it is useless for the government if take the sales of the whitening skills in here, ladies and gentlemen. And can you imagine, ladies and gentlemen, one product you can calculate from the other person in Africa, and then use a product itself, and then increase their economy. Not only the product itself, ladies and gentlemen, surround the people, surround Africa itself, use a whitening skills because they have a component whitening lines such as I have already talked to you before, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why you don't benefit these actions because not only healthy, not only economic perspective, but also you can dismiss in this healthy perspective, ladies and gentlemen. You have already said about why rice units. Yes, of course. Whose peoples forbid to become a beauty person if the components of the white is good. Why you forbid, ladies and gentlemen? You don't understand about the components. So that's why you only consider that whitening skill is a harmful or your perspective. So that's why this motion is going up. Why the motion is rising up? Because this is important for the human life, ladies and gentlemen. Human life for such as economic perspective and then the healthy perspective itself, ladies and gentlemen. Most of the people know about the characteristics, know about the component, and then the people cancellations of the whitening skills itself, ladies and gentlemen. After the cancellation, this is become a natural product. You can take it. Why the people is smart, ladies and gentlemen. They know the selections of these cases. If whose people become a harmful, their skills, ladies and gentlemen, do not people want to just in their school. So that's why they know the component first. Only one. This is a very important. Only know about the components first. After they know the component, they get selections. This is good for their life. So that's why the motion is this house believe that African nations should be balanced the state of whitening and all similar product, and with strongly agree with this motion, and I'd like to propose. Thank you.
The member of opposition spent 7 minutes and 9 seconds. To close the case of government team, I call upon the government whip, Mr. Ilham Mulyana, please.
Madam Chair, the reason why some women are attracted into the advertisements of porns, for example, or boyfriends, for example, because on how media plays in shaping these women's perspective on the idea of beauty. Just because of you need to be very wide, you need to be very tight, you need to be very tight. It means you are beauty wise. Because somehow these kind of conditions it will create a destructive, even counterproductive into a certain community that basically have several problems related to the racial problems. Because somehow the idea of the opposition stance is always talking about how basically beauty is subjective. Because somehow how basically they never explain upon the idea of this subjectivity by having this kind of proposal, by having this kind of procedure to enhance your white, to enhance your beauty by having cosmetic, by having several kind of whitening skins, it will still maintain the idea of beauty is subjective, right? Because somehow the notion of that kind of conditions will never be done under certain kind of procedure of making several racial or making several identity of body will be changed and because somehow the idea of beauty is subjective will never be done. Because because somehow when you follow this kind of trend, it means you follow certain parameters of being beauty, right? Being beauty is you use this kind of cosmetic, you use this kind of body skin, and your skin become white. That's why because somehow the idea of beauty is subjective. The beauty is based on your origins. It is never be done. Because somehow this kind of condition create a clear parameter, create a clear requirements how basically the person's want to become a beauty and very beginning itself. Several ideas from the opposition bends. First, under the idea of feminism, when they want to support this idea under the circumstances about how the goal and the interest of this feminism itself. Let's analyze. They believe on how basically feminism always campaigning and fighting for the portraying happiness of women. No, we're not going to say